when something bad happens. I mean, I've often said that 2008 is just a speed bump on the way to the main event. I do believe that we are in for something absolutely catastrophic when it comes to the global economy. This is 1929. This is the total amount of debt, including the private sector, home loans and such, compared to the economy of the United States, the GDP. And this is 1929, and then this huge rise here is the economy actually shrinking. So debt becomes a larger and larger portion compared to the economy, not because debt is rising. People didn't take on a whole bunch of debt in 1930, 31, 32. What was happening was the economy was shrinking. So this chart rises because the debt is a larger portion of the economy. And then this is all liquidation here. This is people losing the family farm. And this all happened in Canada too. So these are houses, homes being foreclosed on, farms being foreclosed on, businesses going out of business. So the debt is now shrinking compared to the size of the economy. And then they started growing the economy faster than the debt during World War II and the 50s. This is when we went off the gold standard right in here. The Bretton Woods system ended, and debt compared to GDP exploded. And what I'm worried about is we are starting the next great, it's probably going to be a depression, not a recession. There is 100 years of energy built up of trying to cheat the system with central banking and basically manipulation. People talk about the free markets aren't working, we need more regulation, and capitalism isn't working. Well, you can't have free markets if 50% of every transaction involves the currency, Canadian dollars, American dollars, and then the central bank is deciding how much currency there is and what interest rates are going to be. That is a manipulated market. So if half of every transaction is manipulated, it means that we do not have free markets. Every transaction in society is manipulated. And so we're going to be starting this thing from way up here. And this break, if you notice, there's no time, this little tiny thing right here, but there's really no time that the debt starts to collapse, except for the crisis of 2008. It's starting to rise again, but all they did was paper over to the 2008 crisis. All the fundamentals are still there, and they're even worse. And then we've got total debt to GDP. And what's interesting in this chart is it breaks it down, federal debt. And so this is US again. I'm sorry, I don't have data on Canada. But this is the private sector here. And what you see is all of these are shrinking. And this one, it looks like it's expanding, but if you compare it to this area right here, it's actually 1% less right now. So even the financial business debt is shrinking. And the only thing that's expanding in debt is government debt. And this is a very dangerous situation. The larger government grows compared to the GDP, the more frictional jobs there are in an economy that don't produce goods and services that you and I buy. And that basically extinguishes economic energy, brings about less prosperity, not more. Do we have a housing bubble? No, we've got a hyper bubble. Inflation-adjusted home index price back to 1890. Well, right now we're way up here. If there's a crisis and one of these bubbles pops, if the real estate bubble pops, then you're going to see this chart just go to the moon, and the banks are going to end up owning most of this country.